and Shalom. We are enjoying a beautiful, glorious day on one of the many beautiful beaches in Tel Aviv. That's right, Shah TV is in Israel. We are going to explore the history, the culture, and more importantly, the people and the special relationship Canada has with Israel. Our journey begins, though, in the holy city of Jerusalem.
We're at the Jaffa Gate, and at the lowest part of the city is the Temple Mount, but it's actually in the lowest part of the city. This is still from the Roman times. Every city in the Roman Empire had a north-south road, the main road, the Young Street. The remains of those cities are still here today. What happens in everywhere, in old cities, in Jerusalem, in Akko, whatever, the streets do not move. We might come up as time, the houses get destroyed, we rebuild, destroyed, rebuild, but we never actually move the streets. Okay, so we are standing now on about 13 levels of civilizations below us. There's no concrete, no cement. The walls are very thick. Why are they thick? Because we have a stone here. On the other side, maybe a meter away, another stone, and in between we just poured earth and lime and dirt and whatever. And the wall is basically sitting here because of the weight of the other stones, because of that thickness. On the other side, it looks like it's concrete wall, but really it isn't. All they did was they put a little cement over these cracks so that the rain won't wash out the earth. This building method has basically been going on for 2,000, maybe 3,000 years in Israel. Is the tomb of King David. It's not where his tomb is. According to the Bible, he's buried somewhere else. But again, tradition has moved King David to this place here. And I like being in this place because not only do we have the Jewish, the Christian, and we have the minaret from a mosque that was here once too, in the corner. So we have all three religions in one building. Not too many examples of that in the world, and I think it's a beautiful place to start a nice day like Shabbat. The prayers of Jews for 2,000 years have been focused on this one little place. Even today in Winnipeg, Jews pray to the east, towards Israel. In South Africa, Jews pray north, towards Israel. And when we are in Israel, we pray towards Jerusalem. And when we're in Jerusalem, we pray towards the old city. And when we're in the old city, we pray towards the wall. It's like one of those wheels from the wagons. And all the prayers from the Jews are coming in along the spokes from all around the world and being focused at that hub and going up to God or wherever you believe they go. Our prayers go and all our hopes go.
Education is very important to the people of Israel. Hebrew University is the country's largest educational center with more than 25,000 students, and they have excellent ratings, 6 Nobel Prize winners, and the founding father just happens to be Albert Einstein.
This is the Rothberg Amphitheater of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem on Mount Scopus, the Mount Scopus campus. This is one of the major historical spots in Israel's history and also the university. In this spot was the founding ceremony of Hebrew University on April 1st, 1925. This amphitheater has been used for many historical events. One of the most outstanding after the dedication ceremony was the reunification celebration after the Six-Day War. This is the logo of Hebrew University. It's combined of 2 letters, Aleph and Ayin, from the Hebrew alphabet, which are the initials of Hebrew University. And they're topped by a torch of learning. This is a torch of learning. And the combination of the 2 letters with the torch makes up the logo of Hebrew University. We're looking out towards the Judean desert. You can see, on a clear day, you can see the Dead Sea from here. You see Ma'ale Adumim off in the distance, and this is the same view, if you took away all the buildings in it, that the people were watching in 1925 when they were at the ceremony.
On July 31st, 2002, a lone bomber stepped into Hebrew University's busy lunch cafeteria and detonated a bomb. 9 students were killed, and many more injured. This is their living legacy.
Ron, this tree, what does it mean to you, and how did you do it?
As I told you before, I see the terrorist attack here in a very different way. I see it as an historical event. This is a sort of traumatic event that changed this specific location here that we are sitting. So my approach was very minimalistic. And I was very glad that the directors of the university agreed with my approach. I said with such horribility, with bodies flying around, with such horrible thing, you cannot compete in extravagance. I competed with minimalism. So what I did is very simple. I took one of the trees that was already here in this small artificial garden that we are sitting and tilted it in a way that is similar to what an explosion does. The explosion was right here in the cafeteria, so we have a sort of a mark, a physical mark of what happened. On the other hand, the tree is living, go on living. So in a way, the same way as the trauma, there is a trauma, we remember it, but it doesn't mean death, doesn't mean this, it means life goes on in the same way, but a little different, in a tilted way. So we remember, but we go on.
Were you here on campus when it happened?
I was not too far away, yeah. There were many bombs around my house. I live in the center of Jerusalem. There were 10 suicide bombs at that time, the same half year, sort of. But here, it was especially traumatic because the university was seen as a place for all people, of all religions. 20% of the students are Palestinians or whatever, Israeli Palestinians, whatever you say, Muslims, and other nationalities, many other nationalities. No one believed that in this place something like this will happen. And this was a big, big trauma for the university. And the university, I thought, had to deal with it like an academic institution. It has to investigate into the to see the significance, the cultural significance of what happened. And that's what I try to do here. And very minimalistic way.
Right now, we are on campus at Mount Scopius Hebrew University. I've got Yael. You're a second-year Eastern European history and student here, and this campus is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, it's one of the beautiful points in Jerusalem.
Oh, it is amazing. Now, you had mentioned this plant. What is the significance of this plant?
This plant is called tzabar, and it's a plant that grows up in the desert, and in a way, it's a symbol for Israelis because you can see it has thorns, and like Israelis who are a bit rude and say everything straight to the spot, but also it has sweet fruits like us Israelis.
And talking about the architecture here, it winds, it meanders. There's, at every point, there's a twist and a turn.
Yes. In a way, when it was built, it was after the Six-Day War, and they sort of built here this whole campus in a way that they can also protect. It's a very strategic point, and they took that in consideration.
What is it like for you being a student here?
First of all, it's a lot of pride for me because I think after so many years that there wasn't a state for the Jewish people, it's very special to have our own state and have our own academic system where we can learn in Jerusalem.
And where would you like to go in the future?
I would like to study Jewish studies and gender and women's studies and see how they relate between them.
We know him as a powerful Hollywood movie producer, but Steven Spielberg has his own film archive right here at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. More than 26,000 films dealing with Jewish culture from around the world are right here and archived.
The professors in the Institute of Contemporary Jewry decided that film was just as important as books. And the first film in the archive is from 1911. We collect every single type of film and video. We have 6,000 tapes. Our whole catalog is online. anyone can use it around the world. We also have something called the virtual cinema, which has, as of today, 480 movies. We basically deal with producers, researchers, directors. The university uses them for a few courses. Scholarly places use them, but basically it's used for research for other films. So if someone wants to find Jewish communities in Community Center in Warsaw in 1939, he can just click on this and it'll just jump now to that scene in the movie. So now we have people who, you know, if they want something really specific, they can find it.
This is the beautiful Botanical Garden located on Mount Scope as part of Hebrew University. Right now it's being rededicated courtesy of Stephen and Gail Victor. And the place where the speeches are being held is actually called the Nicanor Tomb. It was discovered in 1902 and it was the site of Jewish burial caves dating back to the Second Temple. It's not very often that we get treated to music, and wow, two beautiful musicians are right here. I've got Ofer on my left, I've got Gilad on my right. Gilad, you just said that Ofer is like one of the best guitarists in the world?
Well, yeah, that's what I think. Well, not only me, a lot of jazz musicians in Israel appreciate him as one of the greatest.
And what do you say to that, Ofer?
I don't know what to say.
Oh, but you have been playing a long time, though.
Yeah.
Yes, how many years?
Like 30 years almost.
Wow, and you played with the great Herbie Hancock?
Yeah, in India. It was amazing, yeah.
What is the jazz scene like, Gilad, here?
The great scene here is great. There's a lot of young musicians, a lot of high schools that teach jazz. So there's a lot of every year there's even much, you know, like when I was young there was like 3 contrabasses at my age. Now there's like 10, you know. So every year it's like becoming more awareness about the music, yeah.
And not just traditional, there's a little bit of everything now, that I guess with the American and the Western influence, a lot of pop music too as well.
In Israel, yeah, a lot of music. There's, for a small country, it's amazing how much talent and music. Everybody I meet is somehow involved in music. Either plays, sings, writes, and they're like, so many. So it's really a good place for music.
Well, Gilad, Ofer, the invitation is extended to you to be the guest artist at the next Jazz Winnipeg Festival in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
We'd be happy to come. Thank you.
Welcome to Anna Tico House in Jerusalem. Anna was a passionate artist, and it was her lifelong dream to leave a living legacy for the people of Jerusalem. So how fitting is it that it has now been turned into a restaurant, cafe, a library, and a gallery. And again, it is the most fitting place to host the Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University.
It was one of the very first houses to be built out of the old city, and it was built 150 years ago. One of the famous residents of this house was Dr. Ticho, who was an eye doctor that lived here since 1924. And at that time, there was terrible eye disease in the Middle East, and he took care of hundreds and thousands of people, both Arab and Jewish. He lived here together with his wife, Anna. Anna helped him in the surgery room, but she was also very well known by herself. She was a painter, and she loved Jerusalem, and she painted Jerusalem, the people, the flowers, the mountains, the trees of Jerusalem. Well, Dr. Ticho died in 1960, and Anna lived until 1980. And when she died, and having no children, she inherited the house to the Israel Museum, and her will was that it should be kept as art and cultural center. So what we have here now is upstairs where they used to live, there is a museum. Downstairs, there is the library where we are now, which most of the books are the original books of Dr. Ticho and Anna Ticho. The library specialized in art. We have a gallery with different exhibitions, and we have the restaurant and the garden. So you walk here and you feel the history, and I'm so glad to have you with us tonight.
What brought you here to the beautiful country of Israel?
We moved to Israel in August of '07 from Canada to Israel. I was the general manager of LL in Canada, and in August we decided to move to Israel. Prior to that,
it was definitely a challenge, something that I was very concerned about, but I knew deep down that it would be a great experience. It's been wonderful. So
I know for Westerners here, safety is a big issue. Stanley, how did you cope with that, and is safety a huge issue here?
you know, what we see sometimes on your television screen is very different from your day-to-day life. Our kids have a freedom here that they didn't have in Canada. They walk to school, they go all over. School ends around 1:30, 2 o'clock. They spend the afternoons, they go out, they do things, they come, they do their homework, they do things that they would have never done in Canada, partly because of the weather and partly because there is a feeling of personal safety here that you don't get anywhere else. You don't get the stories of the drive-by shootings, of the things that you get in Canada. You don't get them here in Israel. And you would, the thing that you see on television in terms of that personal safety, that terrorist violent stuff, you don't even think about it on a day-to-day basis because it's not that prevalent.
culturally, it's for the children, it's different. Some things are different, but it's exciting as well. It's an adventure for them, definitely.
I think for us, being Canadian Jews, wanting to try to live in Israel, which is the homeland of the Jewish people, coming to this place and having a connection. Canada's a great country, and both of us were born in Canada and we love Canada, but having a connection here on a spiritual level, being in Israel, wherever you walk, you feel something special, supersedes anything else that's around you. So it's something that you can't even explain. Just, 15 minutes away from our house is a place that was a ancient Roman fortress. To walk there and explain to the kids, and it's just like a Saturday afternoon stroll, is amazing. So these things just override everything else which is around you. Now, at the same time, there can be situations, and you get used to opening up your bag, somebody asking you if you're carrying a gun with you, asking, checking all these things. You get used to it like anything else.
The kids had to get used to learning how to do drills and going into the security room of the basement, but it's a part of their everyday life, and it's not something that they really have to deal with on a dangerous level day to day, but it's something that they're aware of, and slowly it becomes a part of who they are.
This is what Israel is all about. People enjoying themselves all the time, working hard, enjoying life, and really taking the pleasures of the small little things on a day-to-day basis.
And living for the moment, for sure.
That's for sure.
Israel is an incredible country. If you haven't been to Israel, I encourage everybody in the world to come and visit this amazing country with this incredible history, this place for all the religions in the world. And Jerusalem in particular is a magical city. There's nothing better than waking up and looking at the sun rising over the walls of the old city, and where the Dome of the Rock catches the light, and you can, in the distance is the Via Doloroso, and there's the Western Wall where Jews come to pray. It's the Grand Central Station for history and for religion. So it's a magical city. There's this incredible relationship between Canada and Canadian Jews and Israel, where we are passionate about our country, Canada. It's where we were born, it's where we were raised, where our families all live. But at the same time, there's this special place in our hearts for Israel. And it's just a great place to come and visit. You think it's very, very dangerous and it's under siege, but really when you arrive here, as you can see, it's beautiful, it's peaceful, it's prosperous. So like I've said, I think everybody should come to Israel once in their life and see the magic of this country.
Israel and Canada have a very special relationship, including the city of Winnipeg. The Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University have promised $50 million towards a brand new medical research center located at Hebrew U. And it's not just about education, but strengthening the ties between two countries.
I live in a dual being. One is Canada and one is Israel. And I have a passion for both places. And me and my family had a great time and difficult time to leave Winnipeg, but we still call Winnipeg our hometown. And we are looking at ourselves as an export to Toronto, but it's only temporary, and I hope that one day we'll be able to come back home to Winnipeg.
think that the Canadian Friends are a bridge that's connect Canada and the supporter of Israel in Canada and the supporter of science in Canada and the supporter of humanity in Canada to Israel. We playing actually as a bridge that's connect people, that's connect scientists, that's connect idea, that's stimulate idea. I feel that the relationship between Canada and Israel are beautiful, but it's our duty to pour substance into them. And the Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University took upon themselves to provide this platform in creating the right atmosphere and the right environment to create this substance. We feel that it's a great honor for us to be able to do two things. And the two things is to be able to work with the good side of the people, because the people who provide the tool, and money is a tool. You know, we gave a lot of money in scholarship here tonight, but in my opinion, you know, we are focused on the target, and the target is to do good. And to do good, you need a tool, and the tool is the money. And we raised a lot of money, we distribute a lot of money to a lot of beautiful, brilliant people who hopefully will be able to enhance this very special connection between Canada and Israel.
This is Hebrew University's Shining Star, the new Institute for Medical Research Israel Canada. A community of top scientists work in a multidisciplinary approach to finding cures for modern diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and HIV. A new dialogue has begun between Israeli and Canadian researchers to help solve some of today's most challenging health issues.
So we are working on immune cells which should attack the HIV infected cells. And that's my interest. So we are working on mechanisms of how HIV and other viruses escape this attack, hopefully to find an answer to these escaping mechanisms.
And now you've found a counterpart miles and miles away from you. So how did that story all evolve, and how did you get to meet up with the Winnipeg doctor?
It's all started by via email. We thought about a joint project, and actually the joint project would be how to prevent the transmission of HIV from mothers to their babies. So actually we're also working, the immune cells that we are working on are also found in the point of contact between mom and baby. And we think that they might play a role in the transmission of HIV from the mother to the baby. So actually Dr. Plummer studied women that are kind of resistant to HIV infection. And he actually discovered a unique molecule which is found on the fetal cell, on the baby cells. And it's unique because it's expressed, this variant is expressed only in these women. So that's why we are going to joint effort in studying this particular molecule. Maybe this molecule, which is called HLA-G, a particular form of this molecule, is the reason for why HIV is not transmitted in these women from the mothers to the babies.
And what does this institute, IMRIC, mean? I know it means a lot to what you're doing now, but to doctors like you in general,
Well, I think it is going to be maybe the biggest medical institute in Israel. I think it will join our forces together. So it will bring, we will all be sitting in the same building, in the same environment. It will bring more ideas, more funds, more collaboration among us and between us and the Canadians. And I think in general it will advance science and medicine.
So the work that we do, we're trying to understand how genes are turned on and how genes are turned off. We like to understand this phenomena both during normal development as well as during cancer development. And that will help us to figure out how we can prevent cancer from occurring or treating cancer. What we think is exciting is that we think that epigenetic regulation is a big part of turning a cell to a cancer cell, and we would like to understand what's happening there, and as I said, how we can treat cancer cells and how we prevent, but mostly to understand the basic phenomenon that underlies the cancer's phenotype. I love teaching. and I love the contact with my students. This is a very big part of being a scientist. I prefer being with my students. They are my kids' lab. So I treat them as my kids. I care about them. I like to talk science to them. They are my mates for talking science.
I always loved science since I was like little. And even in high school in the summer, I used to work in a lab. Since then, I kind of always wanted to do research, so just following through. Everybody that works in the department is really sweet and really nice. One of the things I was concerned about before I came was that people were like I'm used to doing research in the States, like you order something one day and it comes the next. Here it's a little bit different, but like everything is available. The facilities are great. I've never felt anything lacking. In terms of the atmosphere, I think that there are really like warm labs in the States as well, but definitely the atmosphere here is very like family, kind of like everybody tries to help each other out. But I don't think that that's necessarily different than in the States. Well, what I would say is different though is that like in terms of the research, like you feel like sometimes because you're not in the States, like you're not in the center, you need to like, your research needs to be that much better, like in order to prove yourself. Like maybe like people would accept it more coming from an institution in the States, and here you need even more so to prove yourself. The science has to be more exact, which is also good, you know what I mean? Like that the science needs to be that much better.
You can't delve into medical problems without having a much richer and wider understanding of biology in general. And this is very difficult for an individual to do, but it's much easier when you put together a whole bunch of people to think about common problems. And that's what's been happening now at the Hebrew University. The establishment of IMRIC, Institute for Medical Research, Canada, Israel, Canada. And it's a wonderful direction because it's added a lot of depth and a lot of much more meaning to the work that each individual person is doing.
And now it's off to Tel Aviv. They say that Jerusalem is for the soul and Tel Aviv is for the body. Drink for the soul. Welcome to the kitchen of the Dan Hotel in Tel Aviv, and we have the executive chef right here, Ovid Elfia. Ovid,
Good
welcome.
evening.
Yes.
Good evening.
Welcome to Shaw TV in Israel. We're having a fabulous time, but we have heard that without a doubt you are the best chef in the country. So what is food like here in Israel?
I like to use the Israeli kitchen. I use the products from this area of the Mediterranean. And I like to use we use in this hotel only fresh products and the best product that we have.
This is a huge hotel, so on any given night, how many people are you trying to feed?
This evening?
Yes, this evening, how many?
600 people, almost 600 people, yes.
Yes. And the best thing about your job?
The best thing in my job? My great stuff.
Oh.
I like my stuff, yes.
Oh, that's great.
Without the stuff, chef can work.
Okay, and so what are you going to whip up for us?
I will cook, I will show you the kebab. It's a kebab, but I do it in my way. I serve it with the hummus, chickpea, puree of chickpea, and smoked eggplant.
Well, okay, this is the first time ever in Shaw TV, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Chef Ovid making his magic in the kitchen. Voila.
Bon appetit.
Thank you. Chef Ovid, Dan Hotel from Tel Aviv, the best kebabs ever in Israel.
You're watching a show TV from Israel.
Who said Wild On is dead? No, it exists right here on Shaw TV. We are in Tel Aviv, and you know what? You just drop into a bar and you never know who you're going to meet.
I moved to Israel many years ago with my family, and well, I have a different perspective. I know what this country needs and never had, and we wanted to bring a live music. We need to heal. We need music. Music heals, and you can express yourself very well through music, as these guys, you get a lot out of me. Never mind, I'm not even playing. Wow.
And speaking about healing, though, I mean, this was a place where it was bombed, and you've resurrected, and people are coming here now. It's incredible.
People came before, and you know, even after our bombing, we proved within 6 days we reopened, and we proved that, look, we're bigger than this. You know, you killed some of our people, our friends, our family, but we'll go on, and we've grown, and we've become what we are today, and we are definitely on the map.
For you guys, too, to be able to play the music that you do, and for people to come out and hear you play, it's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, our main thing is the way you look at the world, that's the way the world's going to look at you. And our Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he really had a whole love for the whole world, really the whole world. It wasn't restricted to the Jewish people. And God is not restricted to the Jewish people, and Israel is not restricted to the Jewish people. So we come with the rock and roll to really give a lot of love. And Mike's Place is like for some people, it's like their real family in the house. Like I see some people, they come here and they get like, you know, Dave and the other guys that work here. I see really people have family, and it's an awesome environment and a real taste of what the redemption. We get a real taste of the redemption of people from all over, just really coming together, and we're just really lucky to be a part of that.
Oh no, and you feel it in the house there. People really embrace this music.
I've been saying for a long time that there's something in the room itself the sound is very, very special sound. And then one day I was thinking about it in the car. I don't know why it was so much. Why is it so different at Mike's? 2 musicians and a waitress died in that room, and you'll see there's a memorial board in the middle of the bar there. But there's something in the room that is very, very, very special. Something that raises up the music in ways that it's unique to the place.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, yeah, check it out. This band is incredible. If you're in Tel Aviv, come to Mike's Place. You're going to see everybody here. Tel Aviv.
We got another set to go, guys. Let's go.
Thanks, JC. Thanks. Let's go rock and roll.
For the complete story about the bombing at Mike's Place, there's a beautiful documentary that you really have to see. It's online, and you can go to www.bluesbythebeach.com. And trust me, it's a story that you'll never forget. Shaw TV in Israel continues.
We end our travels along the beautiful Mediterranean coast in Caesarea. It began as a small settlement built by the Phoenicians during the Persian rule, and today it is now a national park with many archaeological attractions, such as the most ancient of all theaters in Israel. Built in King Herod's time, it can hold 4,000 spectators and is still used today for outdoor concerts. And this huge entertainment arena, again built by King Herod for chariot racing, wrestling, and other favorite sport events. Caesarea is a true paradise and a gem of Israel.
We are spending a beautiful afternoon in Tel Aviv with our Canadian ambassador to Israel, John Allen, and his wife, Clara Hirsch. This is their spectacular residence. In a few moments, we'll meet the lovely couple who both are former Winnipeggers. Now, while the Canadian ambassador has had several postings in other parts of the world, Israel may be his favorite. Thank you so much for having us here. How has this position here in Israel been different, or has it been the same?
Well, it's different. We've been posted to Mexico City, to Delhi, to Washington D.C. with postings in Ottawa in between, and every city, every country is quite dramatically different, as you can imagine. Israel is, of course, unique. Being an ambassador, it's my first ambassadorial post, so that makes it different. You're in control, you kind of run the show, and you have access to the kinds of people and issues that you don't always do in different kinds of positions. The country has been an amazing experience for us. We've been here before, we visited here before, but now we're getting a chance to live it politically and culturally like we never did before, and it's an amazing country.
For you, Clara, what has life been like here?
Well, it's a very rich experience, not only one of the most culturally rich places in the world for its population, but also I've managed to do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have been able to do in other places. I've had time to do my own artwork. I've been much more involved in the volunteer sector, so I've been working with the Ethiopian community. And John's job keeps me fairly busy as well.
Talking about your art now, there is one particular picture that your husband showed us just before this interview, and it really draws into your family roots, the picture of you and your brother.
The series that I was working on in the past is about my original immigrant past, my parents' past, and the immigrant experience in general, and also now in combining it with my present experience here in Israel, and how the two are influencing each other and how I feel about them.
Oh, it's beautiful. Talking about feelings now, John. Canada's feelings towards Israel, Israel's feelings towards Canada, experiencing the Canadian friends of the Hebrew University, their generosity. I feel love going both ways.
Absolutely. Well, you attended the ceremony that I attended, and you could see how important the contribution that the Canadian Friends of Hebrew University is to the Institute for Medical Research Israel Canada that we inaugurated together. But more generally, there are Canadians all over the country, Jewish, non-Jewish, who recognize the great strides that this country is making in the scientific fields and sociocultural fields, and they're contributing to that, to many institutions and in a very significant way to Hebrew University.
Your thoughts on IMRIC? How is this going to help the future?
Well, IMRIC is an amazing organization, a new organization. We've had a chance to be briefed by a number of the young and some of the older scientists and the work that they're doing, and the work they're doing with Canadian scientists, with Dr. Plummer in Winnipeg, with scientists in Toronto and in Ottawa, collaborating, acknowledging that one lab by itself can't do it, so having the money to have both Canada and Canadian and Israeli scientists and doctors working together really does make a difference.
So the future looks good?
It certainly does. It's sort of tough economic times, but notwithstanding that, the Canadians have committed themselves, and I'm confident that they will follow through.
Well, before we wrap up, do you have anybody back home in Winnipeg you'd like to say hi to, Clara?
You know what? I don't have very much family left in Winnipeg. I do have cousins. I have my cousins. I want to say hi to my cousins, the McFlickers.
Oh, and how about you, John?
My brother and sister-in-law are in Winnipeg, and lots of friends, and so to Les and to Patty and to all my old school buddies and relatives, great to see you and great to be here.
Well, it's time to dust off the sand, get our bags packed, and head home. We hope you've enjoyed our little travel here in Israel and have a better understanding of this beautiful country and its people. Special thanks to Rami Kleiman and Miriam Pilk-Levine from the Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University. For Shaw TV, I'm Tracy Koga. Shalom.